So you're sitting at home, just relaxing, and then suddenly, whoosh, you just become the Human Torch. Burst into flames, no reason why. Spontaneous human combustion is nothing new. It's been around for a long time. It's been investigated, and there's been theories as to how it happens. But I thought, since I don't believe in it, I thought I would investigate and see if I could find any way to make me believe in spontaneous human combustion. One of the earliest known accounts of spontaneous human combustion, or SHC, was an Italian knight, Paulinus Vorstius, between the 1400s and 1600s. Paulinus allegedly had some wine, vomited flames, and then was consumed by the fire. People were baffled. The thing is, I'm sure the records were not the most trustworthy, yet there is always a hint of the truth in the untrue. There may be some facts that were stretched. Maybe he mistook the lamp oil for wine or something like that. SHC has been studied and examined and investigated for years, but what I'm looking for is the evidence that will make me believe it is real. There is so much information on the subject, and as with most things, the conclusion is divided into two groups: the non-believers like myself, and the believers. SHC is classified as any combustion of a living or recently deceased human without an external source of ignition. In all cases, little to no damage is done to the surrounding area, which makes things even more weird. A piece of paper can set a whole house on fire, yet a burning body doesn't. Here are a few documented cases of spontaneous human combustion. July 30th, 1937. A woman is out in a small boat when she bursts into a blue flame. Allegedly, there was nothing but ashes left in a few minutes. No one else on the boat was harmed. September 20th, 1938. A woman in England engulfed by blue flames in the middle of a crowded dance floor, reduced to ashes in minutes. September 15th, 1982. Jeannie Saffin, who was 61 but had the mental abilities of a child, was with her father at home in London. Her father turns to notice that his daughter Jeannie was suddenly on fire. She made it to the hospital but died 8 days later. The family had suggested it might have been spontaneous human combustion, but the coroner said there was no such thing. April 7th, 1969. Grace Walker of California was found in her home with burns on 90% of her body. She was found alive but died by the time she arrived to the hospital. There were absolutely no external flame sources present that could account for what happened. December 2010. Michael Faraday of Ireland was even recorded as spontaneous human combustion by the coroner. Dr. Ciaran McLaughlin was quoted to say, "This fire was thoroughly investigated, and I'm left with the conclusion that this fits into the category of spontaneous human combustion, for which there is no adequate explanation." Some scientists have used ball lightning to explain the more mysterious cases of SHC. What is ball lightning? Well, it's an event that typically happens during thunderstorms and can range from a pea-sized object to several meters in diameter. Early claims of the phenomenon reported that the ball eventually explodes, leaving behind a sulfuric odor.
TV6's Dustin Bonk met with a family today who had a close encounter with a rare phenomenon called ball lightning, which entered their home. The event happened about 30 years ago, but the Vachon family says they'll never forget it.
White bluish ball come floating out of that room.
Joe Vachon of Gwyn came up close and personal with ball lightning. He and his wife Rose were entertaining friends on a hot August day in 1980. Joe was making a drink when he turned around.
I could see a light white blue ball.
And there it was.
You're speechless when it happens. You don't experience anything except what's going in your eyes. I was just staring. I was in awe.
The ball entered the room from the hallway, floated about a foot off the ground, and touched the TV, disabling it. The whole event took about 15 seconds. When the ball came into contact with the TV, it imploded with a deafening bang, and it shook the house.
The only thing that I don't get is that many reports claim that the ball lightning would float through walls and closed windows. Not very scientific, as electricity would dissipate or at least react in some way after coming in contact with an object. Also, there are quite a few cases of SHC that had witnesses. I'm sure they would have noticed a giant glowing ball of electricity floating around. If it isn't ball lightning that causes SHC, then what does? How does spontaneous human combustion work? There's quite a few different theories on this. One theory is that when plants decompose in our bodies, they produce methane, which then builds up in the intestines and then is ignited when enzymes induce a chemical reaction. Another theory is that a buildup of static electricity inside our bodies. I really don't buy that one whatsoever. See, there is no scientific proof that I could find to explain spontaneous human combustion, except one, the wick effect. How does this theory work? The body acts like a candle and the victim's clothing and hair are the wick. If the body, lit by any smoldering heat source, would ignite the flammable substance, in this case the body fat, and then the wick, in this case the hair and clothing, it would spread the heat source, and as the body fat would melt, it would soak into the clothing to act as a wax-like substance to keep the wick burning slowly. This is why the victims' bodies are destroyed, but everything around them looks hardly touched. The only thing about this theory is it completely contradicts what the eyewitnesses of the spontaneous human combustion cases saw. They stated that the bodies were burned to ash within a mere minutes, and yet, if you use the wick effect, it could take hours. So in the end, I couldn't really change my mind on spontaneous human combustion. There was a scientific proven theory that could explain it. The only thing it didn't explain was how the eyewitnesses in the older spontaneous human combustion cases would state that the body was reduced to ash in moments, which honestly, if you use the wick effect, that's impossible. So that leads me to believe, because there's nothing else to prove otherwise, that it had to have been something else that caused those. It couldn't have been just spontaneous human combustion. Back in the day, they used oil lamps, they used flammable substances were around because they didn't really have the safety precautions we have now as opposed to they had then. So I'm pretty sure it was something else that caused those. And in most cases, the victims were elderly, had debilitating conditions that prevented them from moving quickly enough to put out the flames, were smokers, drinkers. So in the end, I wasn't able to change my mind. Spontaneous human combustion is complete make-believe. Most scientists will agree with the theory that it is the wick effect that is the reason for almost all cases of spontaneous human combustion. I was really hoping to change my mind. I mean, there was so much evidence there and so many stories and documents that I thought, oh my God, I'm gonna actually change my mind on this, but I can't believe that someone would just burst into flames like that. It just, there's something, there had to be something else, and it is, it's the wick effect. I do believe that. If you have any questions, throw them on the comments. If you like this, give me a thumbs up. My name's Rick, and thank you for watching, and until you make me believe, it's just make-believe.